Okay. So we'll let you get settled and we'll call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is approval of minutes of July 5, 7, and 7.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, all three sets.
For a second,
I'll second
any discussion?
it. Yes, on the July 5th minutes where we talk about Frontier. Frontier proposal on page 2. That last sentence just sort of goes off into nothing. Selectman Kearns proposed the present proposal is to... What? Light, is that what I said?
You can
It's
see
two.
it, it is light, it's not there.
It's not there.
It's so light you can't read it, that's right.
Goes. All right,
That was the only thing I saw.
all right with light?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Let's see, all those in favor of approving the 3 sets of minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Additions to the agenda, I had 2. One was the transfer station recycling building, and the second was Northwest COG meeting of July 14th.
What, like an update, you mean?
I'll just give you some
Update.
high points of some I'm using, some not of that meeting. Any other additions?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who seconded it? Or you did?
Communications, the board has recently received a couple of communications supporting a candidate for Park and Recreation Director. Just talked to the chair, John Sanders, who said they're interviewing people, a couple candidates on Friday, and they should have a recommendation to us for our next meeting, and he will come to us with that recommendation at our next meeting. So I'll pass those on to you as I just got them today, or tonight. We did get an email from Johan Windsor about the a bridge on Ivy Brook, and just record we got the communication, and at some point I'll get down there and take a look at it. We can discuss that in another meeting when we
Is it
have more time.
Is it a town road?
It is
Or
not
that's
a
what you're
town
gonna
road.
have to research.
Well, I'm gonna see the people at Trinity Camp. It's that section road where this bridge is discontinued town road. It's below the end of the asphalt. The fire department did upgrade that or repair that bridge years ago to promote access to that side of the river. So what the town's obligations are for doing that is unclear, and whether Trinity even, the current management of Trinity even knows of what their feelings are. But before the town charges down a discontinued road and starts doing work, I think we better think about it a little
Right.
bit.
Just
Yeah.
tell Trinity about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd be glad to fix it. It may make sense for the town to fix it, but I don't think that. I want to make clear that does not mean it's a town road all of a sudden because we,
Maybe it's a half
Do it.
mile down at most.
yeah, maybe they just put railroad ties or something on it. And again, I think his idea of they've upgraded the road down there, but put something to say this is not a,
Who's responsible for
this
it?
is not a vehicular path, it's pedestrian only or something. So I think there's an opportunity to work with Trinity people on making it more accessible but sustainable. Also, we got a nice note from the Short Service just thanking us for our annual contribution. And that's that. Any other communications?
We had a note from Katie Freigang inviting us to the benchmarking workshop
Right.
on July 27th.
Yeah,
I can't go.
I can't go.
she's going, so that's good. Hopefully
Right.
she can report to us.
Right.
It's in Berlin, so that'll be good. And what's with the Cornwall Bridge Gallery and concerts?
There's some issues with the land use department and building inspector or fire marshal or something, and I haven't had a chance to
So
find that out, but-
Karen's looking into it.
yeah, there's discussion on what the building can be used for and under what conditions and how many people and occupancy and bathrooms and handicap
Right.
access and a bunch of stuff which doesn't directly relate to us.
Right,
It
but
does.
somebody's looking into it.
Oh, yeah.
It's been forwarded to
I
Karen.
think there's discussions with town officials about it that have responsibilities for public buildings.
Okay, good.
So I hopefully give you a more complete report and hopefully things can get worked out by our next meeting.
Good.
Any other communications? Any public comments?
Yes, I was wondering what the problem is. None of the minutes from the past 10 Board of Selectmen meetings have been posted on the website. The minutes are not there.
I sent them to Laszlo, that's all I know.
Well, the agendas for all the meetings are there, but there are no minutes since the May 3rd meeting.
I've sent them since then, so I'll email Laszlo and ask him if he's not getting it somehow.
Well,
It doesn't need to go to Lazo anymore, it goes to Carl Wangel.
Well, no one's told me
Oh,
anything
well.
different.
Well, there you go.
Laszlo's always been the one.
Kara's a webmaster now.
Okay.
Who is?
So
Kara Wangel.
someone needs to sort of
Weingold?
What? Yeah.
officially tell me so I know what email it is, then
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments? Yes, we have a pretty detailed agenda, and Roger Kane is gonna come in and talk about the Valley Road Bridge. And he's coming in from Pennsylvania, so he said he should be here by 8 o'clock. Jim Vannicky is, road foreman, is here also, so I propose that we move up the summer asphalt bids and the road sealing discussion to the top of the agenda, so Jim doesn't have to sit through the rest of our meeting unless he wants to.
Oh,
So,
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
He should have
all right, he should suffer with everybody. No.
At least-
Anyway, good. So anyway, I make a motion that we move summer asphalt bids and road sealing Cornwall Village up to the top of the agenda.
to. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. So we had a bid opening last Thursday. I sent the board the results. We had 2 bids for the bituminous asphalt, which is being done on reclaiming and grading Pritchard Road and Baldwin Road, and then doing some extra work or some paving on Town Street, north end of town. So we had 2 bids, and the bid from A&J Construction came in substantially less than the other bid. So I believe it's Jim's recommendation that we go with A&J Paving. They've worked for the town before and done good work, and these are roads that need the work, so I'll make a motion that we accept A&J's proposal.
I would
Is there a
second
second?
that, but I do have a question or two.
Sure, we can have discussion.
We've been told, but I forgot, which end of Pritchard Road are we talking about?
This is the Flat Rocks Road end, not the 45 end, this is the upper end
The Flat Rocks.
of road. Well, you go,
Oh,
you actually
yeah,
go off
okay.
Day Road,
Yeah.
Flat Rocks to Day Road.
Right.
So, no, Flat Rock, you don't go Day Road, just off Flat Rocks.
Right, we're past day.
Right.
That's the first question. The second question is, in the 2 bids, it does appear as if AJ's pricing is substantially cheaper. But what was the, Metcalf gave two explanations, or two additional, I'm asking Jim, I guess the question, two additional details about putting the key in and.
All of the options?
Yeah, the option of putting a key in, and the other option was something about doing something on the side of the road, I can't remember what that was.
That was after like what the DOT is doing down.
I understand what putting, I understand what they are, but does AJ do that too, or we don't think it's necessary, or?
We usually do it ourselves, that type of work, so. Cutting keys, because these roads are gonna be from end to end, we just have to make a line where it starts and a line where it finishes.
Yeah, no, I understand what the keys are.
We're not blending into existing pavement,
Without blending in.
so those options didn't apply to us.
Because you're starting and stopping end to end instead of in the middle, so you don't need to blend down.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
you
guess.
will
but-
start at the start, you will start at the intersection of Flat
Start
Rock
at the
Road,
start, yeah,
and then they'll
yeah.
just, basically
They
they're
are
grinding
able to
that
do it.
section
You
up.
still have to make the key somewhere.
Oh, it's not, a key is a section of
Where you
pavement
cut a
taken
piece
out,
Yeah.
usually a couple of feet, but we don't need to do that because the road's gonna be reclaimed. So we just have to draw a line, cut a line.
A straight line, a square line.
Yeah, we can take a backhoe and take the asphalt away, and then the grinder comes in this big rototiller, so to speak, and rips everything up. So,
And how about the sections on Town Street, can you do the same thing?
that's an overlay, so we'll blend it. It'll be blended in.
Okay, any other-
Those were additional costs on Metcalf's.
Right.
I'm sure it would have been on A&J's too if you wanted it. But is there a reason why our top coat is half the thickness of our bottom coat? Aren't they usually half and half? Isn't your bottom coat 1.5 and your top coat 1.5, so you're 3 inches total?
Right,
So is that what we're gonna end up with?
right. Yeah, they do two courses, and you get better compaction. So they'll put the 1.5 down, compact it, and then put the final coat down.
A final 1.5 though, or
Right.
3/4? Because it's 950 tons for the first coat and then 400 for the second coat, so it sounds like it's
Yeah,
gonna be
because the
half as
first
thick.
coat is leveling also as it goes, so that's, the first coat takes more of the asphalt because it's shimmying and leveling. And then the second doesn't have to use as much because that's already been done.
So in the end, we're still the same 3 inches, it's just
Right,
using less material because you didn't have to level out the rest?
uh-huh. Yeah, the second coat's already on a level surface.
Okay,
The
so it
first
takes
coat's making it level.
less amount,
Yeah,
okay.
that's good you picked up on that though.
Hey, look at me go.
Does it have anything to do with the reclaiming the road?
Well, you hope
Well, that
after
would
they
be your
reclaim it
first
that
coat, right?
then it falls on the grader operator that he makes it, so you don't have those high and low spots. Of course, high spots, kind of good, in a way, you don't use as much asphalt, but, but the low spots are what kills you, that's what, can run you into extra asphalt. And they did a good job last year, the numbers all hit our target numbers, we didn't go over.
Okay.
Okay,
When's this supposed to happen? When would it happen if we, what's the time?
I guess like August? Is that-
October 1st.
October 1st?
Right, so it can happen in September.
Sometime between now and October 1st.
Right,
We have a lot of preparation, we have to do total drainage on Pritchard.
so probably it will be done in September, we think?
I hope so, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
So it's between supplying the materials May 1st to September 30th, so sometime within that span.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
All right.
Next item of highways is sealing Cornwall Village. We did get a bid estimate from Seymour Sealing This is using the pass oil, which is more expensive than the MC 3000, which is what we used in the spring. So to do 1.7 miles of road in Cornwall Village with stone, it would be $34,275. That is with them supplying all new stone?
Using some of our recycled, and that's a high number because we're gonna have to buy some stone, but we're not gonna have to buy that much. So the number you have is a little bit using more new stone.
Right.
So, but we're planning, and I don't see why it wouldn't happen, that we're gonna come under that number using recycled stone.
Is that what this PASS?
That's the brand of oil.
Oh, because his quote is for PASS and all new stone.
Right.
34 too, so you're
Okay.
saying if we didn't,
Yeah, I call
we
them
don't use
for
that much new.
better- Yeah, I have the figures I came up with, square yardage and whatnot, and he was gonna call his office, and I didn't see the final.
He came up
facts.
with the first message today was, which broke it down per yard using recycled stone and new stone. And it was slightly cheaper to use the recycled stone. So we assume, because we have some down at the gravel bank, that this would be, the total cost would be somewhat less than the 34,200.
Right.
But his first letter didn't have the total price, just had it per square yard, so we asked him for a clarification of what the total price is, and that's this letter.
And when would this be done?
After Labor Day.
After Labor Day, after the Ag Fair.
Yeah.
Right.
That's usually the sixth.
It's the weekend after Labor Day.
Oh, okay, that could be after that.
Right. Again, in September.
Yeah, it'd be a real quick one day, in and
Right.
out type of thing.
Yeah.
This is only part of the expenditure of the oiling
Right,
for the new
Program.
fiscal year.
right.
Now Heidi, when we oiled up your way 4 years ago, we chip sealed Day Road, and that was pass oil that we used. And that was done during the summer.
Yeah, and there's not much traffic on there, as
Yeah,
opposed to here in the village where there's a lot of traffic and walking and
yeah.
all of that. I just wanna make sure also wanna make sure it's just gonna be stuck down.
Yeah, this
We're not gonna
this
have
oil
any
is, yeah, the summer
West
oils
Cornwall
are-
issues.
Yeah, the summer oils are more, the stuff in the spring is kerosene that they use to cut it with, and the summer stuff is water. So it sets right up, and it's
Sticks a
really,
little better.
there won't be, I don't want to, be a betting guy, but I'm pretty confident, based on what we did 4 years ago and seeing what happened there, that, the lawnmowers, nobody really messed it up, so I think we're gonna be okay.
Okay,
And the reclaimed stone comes from what?
What we used in the spring and swept up,
And swept up, okay.
yeah.
so we recycle our stone every year, reclaim all of it, and get some savings out of it.
And that has as good adherence as the other, I assume once you sweep it up, it doesn't have the tight coarse grooves. Same thing when you sweep sand, it doesn't have the same traction as it does when you first use it,
Sharpness.
yeah, sharpness.
Yeah, it's chip stone, the chip seal, but it hasn't really been, it's still sharp. It was only on the road for a week or two,
Oh,
and
okay,
it got worked over the edges. If you recall, the sides of the roads were pretty heavy,
right.
and but the travel portion wasn't getting a lot of, compression, so.
Compression from cars, good, okay.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept Seymour Sealing's bid for,
But we're not really.
what? Their quote?
But we're not gonna use the full new stone, we're gonna use some reclaimed limestone, so it'll be different.
Right, but I'm getting there.
Okay, sorry.
I'll make a motion that we accept their proposal of July 19th, 2016 to use pass oil in Cornwall Village with the understanding that the price will be somewhat less than $34,275 because we're using recycled stone, partially. Right, some of it's gonna be new, some of it's gonna be what we have.
Correct, yeah.
I'll second that. That was a motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so. So Jim, do you wanna stay for the Valley Road thing when we get that going?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's move back, into the exotic category. We got a nice, note from, Hawaii. Aloha, Mayor and Cornwall residents. It was great pleasure meeting you and everyone else in town. The Memorial Day Parade was quite memorable. I had such a pleasure visiting the site and the family at the house of Henry Obakaya, lived and died. The bench that overlooks the valley at the end of Pine Street is a most beautiful spot. Thanks for the to the person who put the bench there. My aloha goes out to everyone in Cornwall, and it's a little bit of Hawaiian. And thanks for loving my ancestor Henry Obakaya. We had such a nice visit. Please come and see us in Hawaii. And it's a very long Hawaiian name, but this is a person who is a relative of Henry Obakaya, who died in Cornwall almost 200 years ago, and they plan to have a celebration in Hawaii in 200 years, and I believe the United Church of Christ here is planning also a celebration of his death and return of his remains to Hawaii. So that is coming up next year. So Hawaiians are already coming to Cornwall and inviting anyone that's interested to come to Hawaii to be part of the celebrations. So something unusual, and I think it's very, could be a lot of interesting events next year.
Could we plan a selectmen's meeting
To go?
to be in Hawaii?
I'm sure they do, I'm sure we will.
Is that in the budget?
I'm sure we will receive. Let's see what the Board of Finance has to say. So the woman we met is a relative of Henry Obakaya. Henry did not have any descendants, but she actually works for the state of Hawaii in the historic commission. So
She's not a relative, you said.
what?
Did you say she's not a relative?
She is a relative, but she's not a descendant.
Oh.
She's a great,
Cousin or something.
great niece or something, but he had no
Right.
lateral descendants.
Okay.
Wow, that is quite the name, huh?
It is quite the name.
My daughter went and saw the grave in Hawaii.
She did, yeah. Right, so if anybody's interested, we have the contacts that are glad to see anybody that wants to, that's going over there. I'm sure it'll be well received. So that's Aloha. The Bend project have been in,
You're just gonna skip around,
we're just sort of going, oh, we can go,
going with
yeah, let's go
the
down to the West Cornwall septic thing. I'm just gonna keep the Valley Road Bridge in the town meeting for
Right.
Roger. The West Cornwall septic, sent you a copy of the proposal that the study group accepted from WMC Consulting Engineers. The study group interviewed 4 well-qualified firms and settled after a thorough process on WMC. From Newington, they have a lot of experience locally and statewide designing septic systems in interesting, challenging places. I believe they've done work in Norfolk, Salisbury. They did a big system for Salisbury School. Did a lot of work in Suffield. So they're actually they're also redoing a bridge in Kent. They designed the Amesville Bridge in Salisbury, so they have a pretty wide experience in a bunch of engineering things. The principal, Steve McDonald, has been to town several times and reviewed the scope of work. And at its last meeting last Thursday, the study group sent this on to the selectmen, urging us to take this to the Board of Finance and a town meeting. We are aware that we are eligible for a $45,000 grant, and at the meeting, Ian Ingersoll said there may be some other donations that will help offset the $50,000 plus study. It's $50,500 and something, but I think we should ask the town for $52,000 just in case there's some incidental things that aren't anticipated.
You did say that the possibility did exist that there would be some other lab fees, I guess?
Yeah.
So probably wouldn't, or there could be, I mean, not possible, but could be, for whatever reason. So maybe including a little bit of extra money there would be a good idea.
Some incidentals. So, for discussion purposes, I'll move that we send this on to the Board of Finance and town meeting for their consideration. The committee's worked hard to come up with a reasonable proposal. We're good to have a lot of it paid for by a grant, and this is something we did come across looking at our map records of a 1978 study, I believe. The selectmen spent $4,000 to do a study. I'm not quite sure what came out of that, but other than an aerial photo of the village, and that information has been passed on to WMC, so they're going to consult with that firm that's apparently still in business 40 years later. So I just think it's something that the town's been talking about for a long time, and we'll see where it goes. I think these people have. I'll also stress public input is a key part of the process, which I think is good. And it will be interesting to see where it all leads. So,
I'll second that. That was a motion.
it was a motion,
Not the whole part.
Long discussionary motion.
right? So I'll make a motion that we take this to the Board of Finance and schedule a town meeting as soon as practical. We did kick around some dates, and the committee felt that a lot of them could be there on August 12th. And as we may be having a town meeting talk about Valley Road Bridge, at about the same time, it seemed like, let's get these done and going before Labor Day.
What was the grant? This grant is from,
It's from, I believe it's from either OPM or DOT. It's a transportation enhancement grant that helps talk about smart growth and reuse of urban areas for transportation related issues. Basically, it allows for redevelopment of areas or enhancement of areas that have some transportation hubs, and we have intersection of Route 7 and 128. We have a bikeway going through there. We have a railroad going through there. A lot of things happen in West Cornwall. Plus, it's one of the biggest tourist attractions, having the bridge there, Western Connecticut. So they look favorably upon the application. Off we go. Any more discussion? Board of Finance meets tomorrow night. We sent them this report. Any more discussion? Going once, going twice. All those in favor? Aye. So that's that. Next is the Bend. We're still working on that project. HVA has applied to Inland Wetlands Commission for their approval of the project as designed. I think they've also met with the fire department to get input on it. Have talked to the state, who said that money to develop the property down there is still available. We need to resubmit our budget. Originally it was going to go mostly into septic and renovating the building. Now it's going to go into mostly acquiring property. We don't know what the cost of that property is going to be yet, but we've got a reasonable proposal from Dawn. Wilkes from Goshen, who is highly recommended from our assessor Barbara Bigos, who works with her a lot. And for $425, she would appraise the property, which is, I think, a very reasonable amount. And I'd like a motion to proceed with that. I just think it's good, because it's going to take a while to get the new budget approved from OPM and get all the paperwork done, all that stuff. And if we can just move this ancient project forward, hopefully get an understanding of the process going with Eversource. So either we lease it or we buy it. At least we don't want to hold up the parking lot, road access, if that can get done this year. And it's just another modest step forward, but I think if we can come to an agreement to at least give the town an option to buy, see what a price would be, which will hopefully be all again paid for by a grant, and we just keep plugging away.
So the steps would be that, we have to come to an agreement with Eversource.
Right, they'll have their own,
Right,
appraiser, and
right.
we'll see what happens, but I think this would be an important step forward in next steps.
I'll move to hire Dawn Wilkes to appraise the Bend property.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And Jim, we did talk about replacing that pipe going down to that parking lot if we get that going this year, because there's an ancient pipe that's sort of semi-corroding into the parking lot. So, not a big deal, but it would be good to get that whole thing buttoned up in one project. Good.
How much is the grant for?
The grant originally was for $200,000. This is a steep grant. And we spent a little bit on engineering and surveying the property. But the balance, most of the grant is still there. We still probably have $180,000 or something like that left.
So you spent a little on,
On engineering and surveying the property originally,
thanks.
perk tests. The library presently is historically accurate and does not have bathrooms. So we're trying to move that forward also. Okay. Next we have, moving around, a proposal from GBW Associates, which stands for Got Big Water, service agreement that for $500 plus $400, he would come up and look at sites for the fire department to assess hydrants location. I've talked to him a couple of times. What he would do is drive up from Maryland, come up here for an evening meeting with the fire department, September, everything's happening in September. And then you stay overnight and then meet again in the morning. This way the fire department, who are largely self-employed, do not have to chew up a whole day. And the ones that can make it at night can do that, and then some of us can stay with him on follow-up. So he said also he did this in the Finger Lakes and it worked out well. They looked at about a half dozen sites. And he comes up with a report that would, about 2 weeks later, for action on some different proposals. So Cornwall Bridge, which is a focus, he'd look at the existing non-working hydrant standpipe system, a new possible location for a hydrant in the river, and the idea of tanks or storage tanks or whatever. And then there's other locations. I talked to Chief Scoville last night, and he's got 4 or 5 locations in the corners of town to look at. This guy, I think, would be perfect to do what he does all the time. I think it's a good, solid proposal.
There's nobody local that does it? All the way from Maryland? There's no one
All the way,
closer?
he goes down from Alabama to New Hampshire.
So amazing that he's the only guy.
He has some certification, and I don't know if we could find anybody else, but it seems like we're getting a lot of consultation for $900, and said he has clients up and down the eastern seaboard, so.
So in the end, he said, we show him the several spots, Cornwall Bridge
Right.
and whatever else ends up on the agenda.
Right.
And over these several places, he makes a recommendation or
Right.
2 or several on what could be done in those locations to
Yeah,
resolve the need for water.
right.
Does he then hand it to us and we go about doing it ourselves or hiring somebody, or are they involved in actually installation?
Well, I don't know the exact answer to that. I think he can provide us with lists of hardware and stuff. There may be some things, like hydrants, it's, a swing hydrant off a bridge that drops into
Right,
a brook or something. They may have those in stock or know places that have
Right.
those things.
There's a limited number of
He may
places.
know suppliers. If you want a 15,000 gallon tank, this is the best place to get it.
Right.
So I think he's also going to be a resource of material. I assume we'll need some contracting help to,
Locally.
yeah.
And how did we find him?
Through one of the firemen
Oh, really?
said, got big water, or said big water, which I looked up, which was a Native American resort in Washington State, and then it's got big water, it's not just big water. So, anyway, so out of that came him, so whatever, but he said he's got some good credentials, and why not have somebody come out and take a look at what we got, because it's certainly complicated, and we want to make sure it's the best solution for the town. Okay?
Well, I think it appears to me to be a good idea. There's no, we're not required to implement everything he recommends.
He may say put a big tower up in the middle of
We can say no thank you.
the
Big onion?
a big
Cornwall
onion up in the
Bridge.
middle of
Maybe
Cornwall
have a
Bridge
package.
Ring, so, but I think he's pretty practical, so, but we are not bound to come up with it. We were not bound to do what he says, this is just advice.
I would kind of agree that it's a relatively inexpensive cost of getting a bunch of proposals.
Right.
It may verify some of the same things that people in the fire department are saying. Or he may, like idea 1, 3, and 6, and say 2 and 4 aren't gonna work so well for these reasons.
Right, we've already had a couple discussions on Cornwall Bridge and what we were gonna do down there, so maybe he can help us.
Right.
And say, this idea is better than that idea,
Or he may come up with another idea.
or another idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like for $900, like you said,
Right.
it is worth it.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we sign an agreement with GBW Associates LLC to inspect
Second.
our situation. On-site assessment, fire protection, water supply sources near Cornwall Bridge and other areas.
I mean, in the end, we're the one that has to give, we're the ones that have to give him the information. Here's where the problem is, here are the sources of water.
Does he know what near Cornwall Bridge and other areas means?
Yeah,
There's 3 Cornwalls.
I think he's been in more remote areas than Cornwall Bridge.
And, you know, sort of point out where the brooks are, where the
Well,
sources are,
no,
where the
I mean, we
ponds
have
are.
a water hole committee and fire
Yeah, yeah,
department,
I
so
mean,
this is a great opportunity to hook
So
up
they can take
them.
around.
Yeah, he can take them around. And
Of
certainly
course,
we're
I
not
mean,
gonna say,
I'm not saying
Go
we're,
here.
I'm
Right.
not saying we're doing this,
But
I'm saying that
the department.
the department or
Right.
we, the local people, know more of our own town than he does. His value is taking that information and coming up with recommendations. We have to point out the sources, I think.
Okay, so any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is the new backhoe. The new backhoe is here, and it's working.
He's smiling.
Yeah, it's doing great. It has air
Right.
conditioning.
Right,
We're gonna see you out there this weekend then.
20 years, so.
right.
But no, it's still well, and a few things that during the course of getting it, the salesman left the company that we had. So the new, different salesman from Fairfield County came up, and then he went on vacation. So he's gonna meet with me tomorrow to go over a few things that were part of the agreement, service manuals. We need the warning lights that plug into it, and a couple little things. But yeah, we're out using it, and it's great visibility. So
Where have you used it?
Pardon?
Where have you used it?
Swiss Bridge, we were down there with it, and down the River Road for the bridge down there. And that's pretty much been it.
So we have redecked, while we're talking about
Correct.
stuff, we redecked the Swiss Bridge with oak planks.
Correct.
So it's local oak,
White oak.
white oak, Milton, Cornwall.
Mhm.
So it's been restored to its
So
original condition.
if I ask 1 year, 5 years, 10 years.
Well, we're replacing what was done in 1982, so there were initials carved with a chainsaw, the guys that used to work back
Did you
then.
put yours in the new one?
We did it on a piece that kind of hangs off to the side. It has nothing to do with the integrity of the wood, or
I'm sure.
so it's off to the side. But we're currently addressing the railing, which was why
That
it
was a
was kind of
problem
put out of
too,
action
yeah.
last year, so. But the fisherman, Buddy Robert worked there today, so there was 6 pickup trucks went through. So we're not used to the traffic, so had to stop, pick up, and move. And it was kind of quiet down there the last couple of days, but word's out that it's open, so.
So we're posting that for 10 ton.
Correct, I spoke, the railroad's doing work down there. Their access is mostly on the tracks, but the state inspector for the railroad parked and walked in with the foreman out of Housatonic Railroad, and he looked at the rails that the bridge, you know, the wood is supported on, and he said they date back to the 1800s. I took pictures of them, the integrity of them, they're still straight, they still, the rust is very limited amount of rust. I think number one, it doesn't get any salt down there, that helps a lot. And yeah, he didn't know the actual strength of them because they're judged on a railroad sitting on top of the ground. So he just said they're 70 pounds per 3 foot of weight. I don't know how the railroad does it, but it had nothing to do with actually being suspended. So yeah, they look great, and we're gonna do a little concrete, you know, just fixing a few cracks here and there, and then it'll be done.
Good. Okay, so next is additions to the agenda. Transfer station, recycling building, John Laporta has is spearheading this project, which would be, I believe, a 16 by 32 foot shed that would store recyclable building materials and keep things out of the bulky waste supply. And we did put some money into this year's budget about it. He has talked to Paul Prindle, and unlike any other building in, well, that's not true either, but unlike most buildings in town, this building will float on a landfill. So there's no bedrock, well, there is bedrock, but there's still a bunch of fill there. And so Paul recommends we do a floating slab as opposed to drill down into the garbage. And because of the light nature of the roof and the small nature of the building, it shouldn't be a problem. So that's what they're going with at this point.
So how thick is the slab?
I think it's a 6-inch slab with like an outside exterior, but I'll get more details. They're just getting permits. Now I'm working through it.
So it doesn't have like any
It
kind
may be a
of
frost wall or
frost
something
wall?
there. I'm not sure if they're even going that.
That is gonna be an interesting site.
Yeah, you don't really, well, I remember when they closed it, they got 2 feet of fill from Naugatuck sewer plant, which goes on top of the garbage, so you don't really want to dig down too far. But that's 2 feet of fill over Cornwall's stuff. The site is fairly stable, it hasn't shifted or erupted. So anyway, so they're plugging ahead with that. It's going to be fairly close to the area. And Jim has volunteered or been volunteered to do some of the site work for that.
Sorry.
Archaeological dig.
And you go to throw your bag of garbage away, you get roped into these things.
Right. So anyway, should be an interesting building.
What do we have to do with our permit?
So right now, John took out a permit on behalf of the town to planning and zoning.
I'm not
And-
saying local permit, do we have to do anything with the
Yeah, with the state.
DEP?
DEP permit that we first got, do we have to modify?
Do we have to modify that? Probably should notify them that they're putting up a building. Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, we have talked to Tarnier Health.
I don't think there'd be any problem putting it.
No, in fact, it's good because at my COG meeting, there was a guy there who from DEP, and he had a long speech about stuff, and gave us an update on the 2016 Connecticut Solid Waste Management Plan implications for municipalities Northwest municipalities in Northwest Hills, and what he was pushing was reducing as much stuff going into dumpsters as possible, either through composting food scraps or separating out recyclable materials. So this is exactly what they want us to do. So in some places that don't have transfer stations can't separate it. I mean, everything goes into a dumpster and it gets trucked off to the landfill somewhere. At least here we have well-trained and certified people to pick through the offerings and put stuff aside for recycling. So I don't think it should be a problem. In fact, we might be able to get an award for it. Never know. So anyway, so that's proceeding, just to let you know. At the COG meeting, there was some interesting comments from other towns, and let's see, from one town had come out, they just gone out to bid for culverts, and the price came back much higher than they estimated. Another town had just bonded to buy up a local farm for open space as opposed to residential development. And
Who did that?
what?
Who did that?
Burlington. Norfolk was holding a visit Norfolk in the weekend thing, modeled after Cornwall, Explore Cornwall thing, so you might have seen some of those flyers. From Kent and Roxbury came concerns about increased calls on opioids from emergency services. Then Washington talked about fiber optics, and some companies are looking at wiring the village centers as opposed to wiring everywhere.
Some companies like Frontier, they're looking
Or there's,
at private.
apparently there's another company that may be out there doing other things. From Sharon came a couple of probably the most interesting comments. One, that they were digging in a swamp to put in a new culvert, and they found
something
they
really
found
cool.
the old corduroy road, which was probably 100 or 200 years old, chestnut plank. They basically found a plank road, which the state historic people came, and they have taken out some of the planks. And Jim reported today that they're storing the planks underwater to keep them intact.
Ah, good.
Yeah, and so you never know what's underneath some of these roads, but that was an interesting find. Another thing was, we got from the state, which I might have on my desk, a printout that Yukon has now of accidents on local and state roads. There's a website that will show you which roads have a lot of accidents, and it's interesting. And what Brent Colley did in Sharon was, he does it by year. So he actually found out that some scenic roads actually have more accidents after they become scenic roads, because he's found that they especially attract more. He's found actually more motorcycles say, let's go visit the scenic road. So he's getting more motorcycles, more accidents, more crashes on the scenic roads.
People are driving around, not focusing on.
Yeah, they're looking at the stone walls and
They're
stuff.
also visiting your restaurants and your shops, and so it's all relative.
It's all relative, but I'm just reporting what,
So
What
you
people
don't
are
know
talking
the
about.
website though?
what?
You don't know what the website is?
Oh yeah, I can get you the maps. It's sort of interesting, because certainly certain roads have much more than others.
Right.
Then the other thing Brent reported was that Northwest Connects has become incorporated, has a board of directors, and received, I believe, a $200,000 grant to study fiber optics in northwestern Connecticut. So stay tuned with that group. So I'm going to talk to Jessica Fowler at some point and see what happens. And I think that's more or less the highlights of the COG meeting. So, Roger. Anything else? So I can call Roger's house and see if he's been heard from. Okay.
Well,
Plan for the future.
So, I guess Heather, you know, it's not, so,
might be added to that,
Yeah, we're.
but they can discuss it as a separate thing.
Underwater.
Oh,
sure. The whole bridge? The whole bridge.
Hello, Margaret. It's Gordon.
We have
How you doing?
the bridge and the
Good.
town, right?
Is Roger around?
That's it.
Okay. Have you heard from, what time you thought it was back?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, okay, just so I got the right thing. We have some other things we can, wrestle through, so sort of chewed up our agenda as much as we can. But anyway, we'll just look, I mean, you haven't heard that he's been way later or anything.
Fiscal year 2016.
Okay. Yeah.
Fiscal year
That's the end.
2017.
Just goes through the end of the year.
Yes. Because I thought he had some, I thought he had some updated information for us tonight. Okay, so maybe just have us, have him give us a call, at, 672-4959 when he gets in. Probably for the next, half an hour anyway. Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, we'll go back. Okay, so we can have a general update on the Valley Road Bridge. So, we met down there last week and with people from our engineer, Mohawk Construction, who have did the Lower River Road Bridge during Hurricane Irene. And they were, John Reporter was there, Board of Finance, Roger was there, Jack Preston was there. And anyway, we looked at the bridge, and I think the consensus was that we need to replace the bridge this fall if possible. It seemed like there's enough deterioration in there that seeing what Irene did to in West Cornwall, this easily could become from a small problem to a big problem in a heavy storm. So I think that's one thing came out of it. From there, we went sent Roger off to talk to Mohawk Construction. They're quite busy. Gave him a pretty high figure. He did get a quote from a concrete company in New Hampshire, CSI, who does a lot of concrete work. There's the picture. He was referred to them by Conspan, who was the precast company in Connecticut that did some of the work on the Flat Rocks Road Bridge. These guys do fairly smaller bridges. Came up with a price of $32,000 for that. So the thought is trying to research whether the town can buy a precast unit and have somebody else install it. So then he went and talked to a couple of local contractors, found out that the first couple people he talked to also were jammed up. This would take a pretty good sized construction company because of the size of the work and moving these large pieces of concrete around in place. This would be a box culvert. It does come precast with some footings and wing walls and things for quick installation. Our overriding concern is that it's a dead-end road, and whatever we do or don't do, this is people's access into their places. So that puts it in somewhat different category than most bridges in town. So we have that. Then this morning I talked to Dave Batista, who's been looking at some of these things, and he also recommended that we, move on this ASAP. What he felt his engineering firm could offer us, because I also felt that we shouldn't just, and we could, just dig a hole and put this in, but that wouldn't be, I think, prudent. I think it would be good to have an engineering consultant come in and take a look over our shoulder of what's going on here. What David would be willing to do is to have a stamped plan of work for the town, so contractor we use would have a construction sequence. There would be borings done, so we know what kind of material we're getting into before we start digging. There'd be a survey, topographic survey done, so that we'd have elevations, and again, make the construction sequence easier, because we would have a plot, state plot to start working off of. Then also we do the hydraulic calculations to confirm the box that we're talking about, which is bigger than the opening that's there now, would be adequate for the 100-year storm that these things are supposed to be designed for. In our favor is a fairly calm site. Roger is setting through some twigs into the brook over the weekend, and it takes the twigs 2 minutes to go from the 16 feet from one side of the culvert to the other. So we don't have a high velocity water course the way we did in West Cornwall, but it is a significant watershed. So he would also do those 4 things. He's estimating the cost of those at $15,000. So that's one element. So we have
$15,000 and the 4 pieces
were this survey, a work plan, borings, and hydraulic calculations, and presentations as we need them to say inland wetlands.
That includes the borings.
Includes the borings. Now, just so you know, we spent $14,000 doing the borings on flat rocks and there. So, and we spent $16,000 under pressure because we had to do tricky borings in West Cornwall 2 years ago. So this is, I think, a pretty friendly price from Leonard. He estimated the survey would, and this is maximum cost, $3,500 for the survey, $4,000 for the work plan, $6,000 for the borings, and $1,000 for the hydraulic calculations.
Are there any surveys in surrounding properties that?
Yeah, there are, show the property lines, but we're really looking at topographic features.
The elevations?
Yeah.
More than,
We know where the property lines are. And I have contacted the 2 abutters, so they're in the loop. I also proposed we're gonna write the neighbors, the people affected by this, soon when we get a proposed plan in time. Because we're also looking at probably establishing a footbridge going across the area so people can at least access, park the cars on each side while this is going on and have access to their properties. Then they have to park on the far side and commute.
So it's not gonna be closed half and half?
No, it'd be hard to do it in such a small bridge.
It's pretty small.
Without, basically putting a 20-foot bridge in there, it'd be hard to, or 22 feet even, to do it for that. And again, the trade-off would be when we settle on a contractor to get someone, and if we have to pay, some escalation or something so they can work through a weekend or something, I think we would do that to try to get the thing done as soon as possible. So we have the different components are, of course, the engineering component, the regulatory review, which will be inland wetlands and DEP. So I talked to Karen Nelson this morning and said I'd be writing inland wetlands on Thursday and saying we hope to get this going again in August or early September. And we'll get, ask for special meetings and an expedited review process. I think the fact that we're having an engineer design this, we can have input and take into account people's concerns, but in my mind, does have some elements of emergency to it. then it's the question of finding a well-recommended contractor, and Roger is on the trail of several people to see who's available and who can give us a proposal, and I think he should either have one today or tomorrow.
Yeah, it looks like you were gonna have one tonight, but you don't have that from Town and Royal.
I was hoping to get that tonight, but it may be stuck in traffic on the way back from Pennsylvania. So we have that, and then we have the Board of then
Money.
we have the money part, of course, things are all money. I did talk to Barbara Herbst today. We have approximately $150,000 in capital projects for bridges, and it's her feeling that that's available to spend at this point. So we'll see. I mean, right now, the known costs, you know, if we decide that, we're looking at least $32,000 for a culvert, 15,000 for engineering, brings up to 40,000, and the big question is how much can we get a reputable contractor in here to do it and do it quickly. But I would, you know, assuming the board wants to push on this, if we can get somebody in August, let's do it, right?
If you're talking that much money, you don't wanna go out to bid on it?
Well, again, I think the whole bidding process, bringing up the documents, if we can get a righteous price, we have an idea of what other people have given us estimates for. And if we can get a righteous price and feel that that's a good thing, I think if we can avoid a 2-week delay on any part of this, I think I'd be inclined to do that.
Has he gotten a price from anybody besides CSI on the culvert? Did he call United or Cromwell Concrete or any
No.
of those guys?
He did talk to Conspan, and Conspan said this is the people who will give you the best price. So we can.
Yeah, but has he called anyone else to get a price?
His,
This is the one.
I don't want to, I know he's been busy trying to fit this all into everything
Right.
else that's going on. But again, I think if we can get a reputable contractor to say we're available, we've got the equipment, we run it past
We're talking
engineers.
$150,000, I mean, I think we should at least get more than one price.
We could, but I think also we already have, we already have some prices that are fairly high, so quotes. I mean, the question is whether we go, I don't think we need to go in a public advertisement and go out through the paper advertisement and spend extra time doing it, as long as we get prices that are equivalent from reputable contractors.
We should
I
have
think
more than
all-
one price, I think we should have at least three.
Well, I
You're
think,
talking that much money.
I think that's our choice.
I think
I
this
don't-
is,
I don't
this
think
fits differently in that this is, as is true with the other projects that we did, other projects that we put out to bid that came out incredibly, it came out more money than we anticipated. If we ask, we're asking a very specific thing. I think this is a smaller bridge, less complicated, doesn't have a dam on one side. Is more critical, it's pre-emergency.
Right, so it's easier for 2 other cast concrete companies to give us price. Doesn't matter who it comes from.
I think the contractor part of it is someone who's large enough to do it and who can fit it in.
Sure.
And in their minds, if they can't fit it in, they're gonna charge us a lot of money to fit it in. And if they can fit it in, they're going to want to, because they have an open 30-day window that they now can plug their large machines into.
Right,
Uh,
so we should ask them, instead of just going to one company and saying, hey, what's
I
your
think
price?
he's been trying 2 or 3 contractors,
Correct.
hasn't he? I mean, I think
Yeah.
one right off the bat said they're busy.
It's the same thing, yeah.
We're busy.
Or we, yeah. I'm
Yeah, we
sure.
can do it, but it's,
Okay, well, that's
It's
a
gonna
question, so that's one guy. Another guy we're waiting for the number on.
Right, so we're getting a couple of things.
Alright,
We are.
so at least we're looking around, not just saying, hey, the job's yours.
right, but I think we may not actually end up with numbers from each one of these people. The answer is, we're busy, we can't fit it in, but we will if you're willing to pay us a phenomenal amount.
Right, no, but I mean the guys who can fit it in, like, so what's their
Right.
price? Can we get something for more than one guy, or they're all busy?
But I think we should have to develop exactly
Does it matter if we wait till September, October? Does it
I
have
think
to be
it does.
done right this
I
moment?
think it does.
Yeah.
I don't think we wanna lose it.
Can
We're,
you put a road plate over it and buy us a few months?
I think if you lose it, if you wash out and that abutment goes, the plates aren't gonna work.
Plates don't work.
You have to put a Bailey bridge or something like that in there, and then when we looked at that at Lower River Road, we were $80,000 just to rent a temporary bridge. So I think we have some.
Just asking, I saw the
Yeah.
bridge, it looks like it could fall tomorrow.
Right. So I think we have some advantages. The
If that's
thing,
what Brad's here.
I could probably kick that.
still there. So I think we need to expedite when we can expedite, balancing out the need to get the
Right.
best price,
That's why
the
it
best
makes
product, and
sense.
the best
Right.
contractor. But I think right now that what I'd like to do is I mean, I don't want to speak for Roger, and I think he is doing his due diligence. So leaving the contractor piece out, I would like to get a motion to proceed with Leonard. I think we know that's a fair price, doing a bunch of work.
I'll make a motion that we accept Leonard's proposal to do the work that they've outlined on the four things: the survey, the timeline, the borings, and
Right, and we'll get a written proposal. I'll get a written proposal to get back to you, but I'd like to be authorized to accept their written proposal of doing all the work.
Leonard's proposal.
Yeah, but I also want to, again, try to get some of these things, like the surveyor and the work plans out of the way. You know, if he's ready to get cracking.
I think that because of the nature of the current situation, which is pre-emergency, that's my term, we need to be moving on all of these things simultaneously, so that when they all come together, it's happening in the next, the bridge is being done in the next 60 days. I think it should be done in August or September, absolutely. And all of these things have got to be moving along at the same time. As long as, yeah, and none of this money is going to be grant money, so there's none of that. It's all going to be town money.
Great.
But we have to authorize it correctly, we have to have the regulatory permits correctly, we have to have the engineering stuff correctly. You know, we have to get the right contractor at the right price, I would agree, but we have to, all these things have got to be moving forward. 'Cause I don't think any one of us would be surprised if something happened. We've all seen it and
Right.
said, if something happened, that wouldn't necessarily be surprising, it could be there and it could be there for a while, but not forever. So I would recommend we move quickly on
Right.
on all
Right.
fronts.
And I know Roger is doing a bunch of work, so thought he was gonna come tonight, and he's supposed to be back between 7 and 8, but things happen. So I think you will have more information. I mean, he's working on this every day, so we'll have more information at the Board of Finance meeting. The other piece is a town meeting, notifying people what's going on and all that good stuff. So I would like to schedule, you know, we wrote up a draft for the town meeting. What?
I will second.
Oh, we haven't
To hire
to do
Leonard to do
Leonard.
this $15,000 worth of work.
Okay, any more discussion on Leonard? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So then on to the town meeting process. We have a draft, go over,
I
and
just
again,
made,
this is,
made a slight
Right.
editing change to it that I think clarifies where the funding is coming from.
right, so what, the real reason, and we don't have to get the wording down tonight, because obviously we're missing the number, and we'd have the number before we sign off on it. But the key thing, what I'd like to do is agree on a date, because we're good on, you know, assuming the Board of Finance goes for that, we're good on the septic thing on the 12th. So I would like to put this in the Chronicle as a town meeting on August 12th, and just say for, you know, the reconstruction of the Valley Road Bridge. Now, if everything comes in magically under $150,000, according to Barbara, we only have to go back to the town meeting for the additional money because we already have $150,000 in our capital projects, which we have said we're going to reallocate towards Valley Road.
But still a bridge. We're only reallocating it from one bridge to another.
Correct, but it does not require the town meeting to reappropriate more
Right.
money because it's already there. So what we're looking at is for, you know, the money over the 150. Okay,
If there isn't.
if there isn't,
If there's a need for any, is that what
there's a
you're
need for it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we, you know, we gotta have some contingency, we gotta think,
Now
of
we're
it.
at 47.
Right.
I mean, it's partly why I changed the wordings, just to
Right,
say that it's
so-
coming from the capital project fund.
Right, the
And
only,
any additional money would come.
let me see your change. So that's the thought. So what I'd like to do is to, you know, the Chronicle is mentioning this, so people know that we are gonna have a town meeting on the 12th for these two items. We won't put a dollar amount in there unless we,
Till
Yeah.
then.
well, we may get something tomorrow and, you know.
No,
come
we're not gonna
up
put
with-
a dollar amount in the Chronicle. Is that what you're saying? But we're gonna
Right.
put it, you have to have it in the town meeting.
Right,
Right,
You have to have it in
Right.
this,
but
but
I
not
think
in.
saying that this is the topic,
and we have time to get it, how long does that have to be noticed?
set
5 days.
5 days ahead, so we, again, that's why I've got another good reason to put it off to the 12th instead of the 5th. We again can get going. So, and also what's interesting too is because we already have that money there, that if, if we have the money ready to go, then this all comes together, we can, because the thing hasn't been built yet, it needs to be cured and everything. So after we get everything organized, we can order the, you know, the culvert and everything, because that has to get cured and everything else before it can be installed. So there's a bunch of different things there. So, the only thing I think it's important to say, that, and I'm not sure this says it, is that all we're doing is appropriating the money beyond the money we already have.
I was gonna say that.
So
Funds will come.
Well, we can
we
verify.
can worry
the
about
wording.
that. That's the only thing I said, until we find out whether
It's
you.
like in any additional funds, it's like, well, how much is the additional funds?
Right.
Well, but there'd be an amount, I mean, by the time we get to the town meeting.
What we probably
call-
should do, say, this amount is in addition to the $150,000.
50,000,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
It's
so
already
that
in there.
it's
Yeah,
So I
already
think
known
it's
that
important
it's
to say
in the budget.
that we're not fixing the bridge for $23,000.
And we're not voting on the 150
Right.
because we already
We're-
have.
It's already
right.
done.
Yeah.
It's already been done.
Good. Okay.
Hopefully we're paying less
Uh,
than that.
The X amount, the cost of the bridge, 150, already approved
Right.
at a prior meeting.
Right, and we can put
Yeah.
clarification in there.
Sure.
Yeah, or you can say, where you say additional, anything above and beyond previously approved 150,
This money is in addition to the 150 that was already approved.
previously approved in the capital budget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can work out that exact wording.
Right.
And the current bridge, or no, not bridge, the current span, it is a bridge, is,
10 by 6. The box is in there, the opening is now is 10 by 6.
6 feet, 6 feet,
Tall, 10 feet wide.
10 feet wide, 6 feet tall.
Correct,
And the-
or
the
something
ro-
like that.
The road is 12 feet maybe?
No, it's a little bit wider than that, not much.
And
Dimensions are.
so they were proposing making the box 6 feet high and 10 feet.
Maybe it's a little less than that now. I think it's not quite 5 feet, but or quite 6 feet. And what Roger said too is when he went in there with his waders this weekend, and he found it was undermining on the north abutment too, about 2 feet. So another reason to have a box with wing walls is you can't get underneath it. And then the other thing that's interesting too, because of DEP wants to have natural finishes, so apparently the latest thing is you buy an oversized box and you put it in a little bit lower than the existing stream channel, and then you fill it to the bottom with rock so it looks like an existing stream bed, but
Doesn't pay for the extra.
then you pay for the extra. But anyway, so that's how you get out of this whole thing. Or the other problem, when you don't have a bottom to your bridge, then you have this erosion problem.
And, not to go off subject, but we can't do this type of thing on Flat Rocks? We
Well,
have
that's
to
the
do
inter-
like that whole big span, that seems to cost so much money.
Good point. Now, if we find out that this whole thing, this system works where the town actually buys the pieces and we hire somebody to put them in, I think we might be on to something that's really interesting. So that's, I'm hoping to see this be done for significantly less than what we saw at Flat Rocks. So we'll see. Roger said it's more complicated, he likes the arch because of something up there.
Yeah, I'm
The
sure
watershed is probably
Sure
bigger.
would be pretty, but you don't have that. You're never gonna see it.
Right. So anyway, yeah, I mean, if this works out well, then we could look for other places to do this kind of thing where the town buys the material and we just hire the people to put it in place.
What, think about the arches or any of the other bridges that, the West Cornwall Lower River Road Bridge, they were secured,
And it gives you a bigger span.
they were secured into the ground
Yeah.
with
Piles,
piles or some kind of footing
Right.
that was
35-foot piles.
in West Cornwall, but the one in Flat Rocks was going to have a spread footing, a certain depth,
Yeah,
Back.
and back, and
and it's a bigger span and there's a dam.
so
and
what
there's-
holds this secure?
I believe there's,
It's right here.
and there's wing walls and stuff on it, so basically in place. I don't know, find out.
So, when you consider the dimension,
Yeah.
I've seen that road underwater twice
You have,
in the last 20 years, yeah.
okay.
So, I don't know if the identical dimension will really serve in the long term.
Yeah,
Not by much,
right.
8 inches or so of water over the road. When it really gets backed up, and there's a fair, flat area on the upstream side,
Right, there's a lot of place for
but still.
differs, but there's also there's rocks. I mean, also the outlet and inlet were somewhat restricted with boulders and stuff and ledge even. So
Gotcha.
right, so we will bring that up. Jim had not been aware of it overtopping.
Yeah, I told you.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, it probably is not that much more expensive to put in one that's slightly bigger.
Slightly.
So why we have a local resident here? Any thoughts, concerns for the neighborhood? We are, or I'm gonna, write everybody, tell them this is what's going on. We're looking at,
Yeah.
hopefully a week or two in the, summer or early fall, as opposed to winter thing. What we did in West Cornwall was have a footbridge, span it, and cars parked on either side, but give you enough warning so we had to get fuel oil or deliveries or whatever,
Right.
and
Enough
then just
warning.
have
At
commuter.
that time of year, it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Right, but we wanna get,
I know Bill and Kathy are concerned about emergency service access.
yeah,
And, we have 2 vehicles, so it's okay. But, I'm not sure everyone does. Well, Luke and Lolly can share. I don't know about Nancy, in the little red house. I think she's got 1 vehicle. But, the access through the castle property was explored.
yeah.
Is that viable? I mean, is that, yeah?
Well, the original,
Overland?
what?
Is that like an overland expedition or?
Well, the problems were that, and Roger actually did the exploration, but there were 2 that the bridge that you go over has already been plated
Yes,
and is actually in as bad or worse condition of this, so then if all of a sudden
yeah.
we presented that as an alternative, we're taking on that responsibility, or do we have to fix that bridge to get to this bridge?
Gotcha.
And then plus, there is a lot of, the road is very rough going up through the woods, so we'd have to do a bunch of work on somebody else's property.
Right,
And then it didn't look great,
right, so
At this point.
possible, but not.
but
really-
not great.
Not really
Mostly
advisable.
because of the bridge.
And I guess only one side of the gate opens and it
Yeah,
limits the size.
we could fix the gate, but I didn't think we wanted to spend a lot of money fixing their
I think it's
bridge.
just too many complications.
Too
Right.
many
I mean, it's
things.
not, if it was just the bridge,
Right,
then maybe you could say, okay, we could
Another.
come up with something,
Right.
solution.
right.
But it's just the bridge plus 500 feet of, or whatever the distance is
A
of
scramble.
and then marsh or swamp, or even whatever, overgrown, or it's,
Yep.
and then there, it's just, and even when you got all done with that, it's still a pretty narrow, very
Yeah.
limited, you've been on the road up to the castle,
Oh, yeah.
it's marginal, it's fair, it's not very, it's not,
Yeah.
it's,
I haven't been from the castle to Great Hollow, but
well, it doesn't get any better.
yeah, I think
Right, but,
that's my unexplored. I'll check that out. But yeah, you know, we're all sort of prepared, or
Right.
can be prepared.
the word's out.
The word's out, and it's,
Right.
I guess the biggest concern, you know, I saw Kathy coming down here, is the, access for emergency
Yeah.
services. You know, the need is probably not great,
Right.
but you never know.
You never know. And I think, yeah, I mean, we have a couple options there.
Maybe some
Perhaps.
older vehicle on the other side. so
Right,
we can
and I mean,
transport and-
in reality, it's, in a way, you're better off than, you know, a injured hiker on the
Right.
thing, because all you basically have to do is
Transport
shuttle
on the
people
bridge.
up, back, and maybe we could park an auxiliary vehicle on the other side with some medical gear in it or something.
Right, it doesn't have to be a
I
lot,
think
but
there's-
enough to transport.
I mean, for a week or two, we could probably find something
You're
with,
not gonna decline,
Some-
right?
there we go. So whatever, I think we could do something, and
Yeah.
then, as long as we had a way to get them to a waiting ambulance, that's the thing. The other, my concern too is with things that go wrong occasionally, the worst thing we wanna do is get our ambulance stuck going to a call over the bad bridge, or get stuck in the woods. We're
Exactly.
better off
Stop
pre-planning
right
this
there.
somehow
Absolutely,
and just use the regular road,
absolutely.
so.
Having it a bit rough,
Yeah, I
getting,
can see
getting
that.
down to the
Right,
pedestrian bridge and over, and
Middle
then
of
we.
the night, we have, this is how we're gonna deal with it.
yeah. I mean, I think that would be accurate, because we still have to serve, you know,
Right.
the dark entry and then everything else in the meantime for emergencies and fire.
Right.
But we can come from the other side. We could open up dark entry road from 45.
We can
We
open
don't
it.
wanna go there.
Yeah, we could, yeah,
But no, it's all,
Right.
Megan, I think it's doable.
and our deal is better to do it now that we're on notice, than in the middle of winter or something
yeah.
like that, and hopefully it will last for another 100 years, so
Exactly.
this will be it.
Yeah. No,
But we're gonna try to expedite it as quick as we can, and also expedite the construction thing to make it a boom boom,
yeah,
you know, in and out
I think we're all.
process.
And the only person I wouldn't be able to speak for really is Nancy
Right.
and Karen
Do you have,
and Rob Lacey's place.
right, I can talk to Karen Dobler and find out how to get a hold of her,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
get some contact information.
And I haven't spoken to Duke and Lolly yet, but
Right,
they'll be on board. I
Right.
think, or whatever.
he can,
Necessary.
he can maybe cut you a road.
Oh,
Around.
we should recruit some of his equipment, I think.
He's got some locust planks he probably can put over the bridge.
He'll take care of it in a day.
Put an alternate bridge,
Right.
he probably can build you an alternate bridge.
Exactly.
Good,
Yeah.
okay, anyway, we will be in
Good.
touch, if anything comes up, you know where we are, and
Keep us posted.
we're
yeah,
trying to
thanks.
get it,
Well, you're
Done.
living on the frontier
and,
as it is in
That's-
the best of times.
We
It's the
have to be
frontier.
prepared then.
hey Roger,
Yeah.
hope you didn't get any tickets trying to get home,
No,
yeah, so we have,
That's right.
you can
Of course,
catch
we were just talking about Payne's,
the famous bridge.
James Bridge.
Welcome, Roger. We have, you can catch your breath, what we've done so far is, I've talked to Dave Batista today, and he said he will do a survey, topographic survey, and, okay? Said he'd do a work plan, a stamped work plan.
Good.
He'd do borings,
Don't need it.
so. Okay.
Let's amend our motion.
To do his hydraulic calculations.
Yeah, it'd be, hydraulic calculations are good. I got a rate of flow. He asked me about that a while back. And I mean, believe it or not, this is sophisticated enough. You can drop a leaf or leaf.
It takes 2 minutes.
Exactly.
You told me.
Oh, I told you that.
That's
Okay.
already- That's already been recorded.
Okay, so that's the rate of flow.
Uh-huh.
The rate, it is such a nice, relatively still brook.
Right.
It does not have rapids to it to speak of at all,
Right.
so it's a
Right.
relatively slow flow. I did meet out there yesterday with Town and Rel.
Right.
They got back to me today. I just quickly looked at the computer. I haven't digested anything that they've sent. I did talk to CSI, and we'll see if I can't twist their arm as far as their time frame goes. It'll only take about 6 days to produce the product once they have their marching orders to do so.
Right.
So I would like to talk to Dave Batista before we enter into any agreement with him.
Right.
I don't think we need quite as much as he's offering.
Okay.
Here's a very, very quick, my computer and my printer don't often talk to one another, but you read this sideways, the other one vertically.
Okay.
And why do you believe that borings would not be necessary?
Because they're gonna tell us exactly what we know, that there's big boulders in the ground in the area behind each abutment, exactly like what we found at Lower River Road, exactly what we found at the Gravel Bank Bridge, exactly what we found at Flat Rocks Road. We've had test borings done there, all to prove exactly what we know. All of these water courses have eroded much of the soft material away, left big boulders, and then the big boulders have been filled in with more soft material. So all of these bridges are virtually the same. There is a small outcropping of ledge at Valley Road, but I'm almost certain it's a very soft stone and will be easily excavated. Town and Morel were out there, they looked at the stone. They don't think that they're going to even need to bring in a hydra hammer, which is a hydraulically operated big heavy duty jackhammer, and that's what they would use rather than blasting. They wouldn't use any blasting out there. They feel they could probably do the entire project start to finish in a week.
No.
A week.
Remove and replace.
Okay.
So that's the best information I've gotten.
Right.
I will try to be at the Board of Selectmen,
Board of Finance
meeting tomorrow, much earlier than tonight's meeting.
Right.
I made a commitment for
Okay, so,
the ISD.
so what we also talked about was, we had or at least 4 different parts of the project. We have to get some permits from DEP, inland wetlands. We have to talk about the money with the Board of Finance. We have to get some engineering involvement, of which we've got an upset limit of $15,000, which we so far have been authorized to do.
Okay.
Whether we need to do all that is a
Right, we
good
may be
question.
able to get away with a little bit less than that.
Less than that. And we have the last piece is the contractor, which we have an estimate here of that looks pretty good.
Yeah, that estimate, I called them, I talked to them at 4:20 yesterday afternoon, and they said yes, they were interested, yes, they had the equipment, and they had the time frame they thought they could work it in. And I said, I'd like to show them the project, and they said, okay. I asked what worked into their schedule, and they said, well, what works into yours? And so I said, well, how about this afternoon? They laughed and said, sure, we can do that. So I met them out at the bridge about 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how quickly they were able to respond. Both brothers, their town of Rel used to be run by Alan Town, and now his son Alan Jr. and Kyle all run the business. They both came out, took a look at it, and they both felt that it was a job that they would like to do. They would work with us. I also want to talk to Mohawk Northeast about renting their pedestrian bridge. I talked to Town of Rel about erecting it, and they said that would not be a problem, they could easily install it, but they don't have one. So, the pedestrian bridge has sat in their yard since they took it out, West
And
Cornwall.
Mohawk.
The Mohawk Sheriff, since they used it in West Cornwall.
Right, this would be the same structure. All it takes is a couple of mafia block type of blocks put in, set, and then place the pedestrian bridge on top of that.
So Mohawk's estimate to do this, because they're tight for time, was several times more than this estimate. So if he did Roger did get a price from Mohawk that was quite a bit higher than this.
And I talked to Knox, who I've worked with on other projects. They have the equipment, but they say it'd be at least 3 months before they could get to it. They're a contractor out of Milton.
So
That was my question before you got here. Did we have any other prices, or we just said, hey, this is what we got?
No,
In this firm, they have the equipment
Yep.
sized large enough to be able to move
Mhm.
these concrete blocks. That's really going to be the biggest piece of equipment.
the segments of the box culvert,
Right,
correct?
right.
They're about 14 tons each.
Right.
I explained that to them, they said not a problem. They've got backhoes, excavators.
and we think, and we know they've done other similar projects
Yep, they did the one I use as an example, that Trumbull Place in Bantam.
in Bantam.
Yep.
Yep.
They put
That's a
that,
pretty big one.
well, it's bigger than this
Yeah.
by far, but they figure that this shouldn't take more than a week. And I told them that once we close the road, that they're 5 homes.
You're under the gun.
They're on the
You've
clock.
got residents to answer to.
They're out of Litchfield?
Yeah.
Down around?
Right on Maple Street, right
Yeah.
off of Route
Yeah,
202.
exactly.
Field /
Yeah.
Bantam.
They've been in business for 45 years.
Yeah.
They have a nice website you can go to and look at all the projects that they have done. If we
Yeah.
need some,
Right.
they've got a marketing package they gladly send us, what they've done, who they are, who works.
So with this and with reducing 15,000, we're under the other news we got today was because the town has 150,000 in its capital projects fund, that money's already been allocated for bridges by the town, so we do not have to go back to a town meeting that exceeds $150,000.
Oh.
Which with the culvert and the engineering and this, we seem to have an estimate that is under that amount, so what I, in that, under that neighborhood. So that's an important thing. So, we'll talk to the Board of Finance, and what I would think we would do is pursue Town and Orel, get an actual, contractor written estimate together and having, a special meeting next week to talk about this. We'll, talk to maybe some other concrete companies. What about United Concrete or anything?
I talked to them, and they had been contacted by Mohawk.
Right.
To come up with a proposal based on the sketch from CSI. They'd taken CSI's name off it and so forth.
Okay.
They were a
Sent-
subcontractor or subcontractor?
Yeah, the contractor sent the proposal from CSI to another,
Yeah.
so they were working on coming up with an estimate for Mohawk. I will contact them and ask them to send it to me, as Mohawk is probably backed out of that, because they told me that there's just no way they can practically do it. They would love to work with us, and they look forward to working with us in the future, but they just can't do it in the time frame we're going to need.
So one of the questions I have would, the proposal that CSI was making was for a certain dimension.
Right, 6 by 10 by 20 foot.
Right. If it was 6.5 feet, or if it was 11 feet, the cost is not going to be substantially different.
Not significantly different. I did talk to them about that. I said that I don't want to change the vertical dimension in order to set the floor where I feel it should be so that we get a natural base in the culvert and have enough cover over the pipes, over the
Of course,
culvert, that we have a cushion of gravity. So that vertical dimension I'd like to keep fixed.
Well, then if
But
it's,
the
instead of it's 10,
horizontal-
if it's 11, I mean,
Right.
it's a,
We're making it bigger than what we currently have. We currently have 9 by 6. So we're designing, at least estimating at this point, 10 by 6, which is,
10%.
10% larger. I would want somebody like Dave Batista to bless that number.
Right, then that's where I was going with this, is that getting the water,
Engineering
the
approval.
engineering report for how much water flow that they would estimate, if it ended up being 11 feet instead of 10,
Right.
the number for the box is gonna be a little bit more, but not
Right.
substantial.
The roof of the box might be an inch thicker. The reinforcing in the box might be a 1/4 inch bigger, so the overall cost would not be 5% different.
And to install it's probably not gonna be any
No,
different
would
at
not
all.
be any different at all. And they believe they can handle all the flow of the water through pipes alongside the culvert while they're installing it,
So
water handling.
getting the water flow and the designing and the engineering of the exact dimension of what we want to handle the 100-year water,
Mhm.
it's sort of the next exact piece of
That's
information.
what I'd like to talk to Dave
Right.
Batista about.
Do you know Brad Harding?
Yeah.
Yes, he said he's seen the water over the bridge twice.
Really?
Yes,
In the
Well-
last 20 years.
in the last 20 years. So we've had 100-year floods in the last 20 years.
Exactly,
Mhm.
Right.
exactly.
So,
Because
Do you
the
remember-
nice thing about the valley is that there's a great area for reservoir. In order for the water to build up enough of a head to go over the road,
Right.
it would take a large volume of water over a very short period of time in order to fill that valley, because the valley is very long and very shallow.
Yeah,
It's not steep at all, so you don't get an awful lot of velocity.
yeah, upstream there's a lot of sideways.
Right.
stag-
and the elevation is the same at the bridge, all the way around Colesfoot, past Footfields, past Benjamin's Farm and all that going, and it's not until you get down farther on Route 4 that actually the elevation changes, so it's very flat.
Yeah.
So, but we'll keep that in mind when we talk about hydraulics.
Right.
Wasn't more than 6 inches or so over. It was, passable. You get a little uneasy.
Yeah? Okay, so Joyce, can you reread our previous motion? The $15,000 thing.
Richard made the motion to accept Lennar's proposal to do the work on the 4 items, the survey, the work plan, borings, and calculations. And then Heidi seconded, adding Lennar to do the 15,000 worth of work.
Okay. So we probably should revisit that motion. Let's see, let's see.
If I can offer a suggestion,
Yes,
in that, as far as the verbiage in that goes, if we establish it to be an upset limit of not to exceed 15,000,
right.
then we can work at any portion thereof. If that's agreeable to the board.
Isn't that what I said? Up to 15,000? Or did I say
You said
15,000?
15,000.
You
That's
said
what
the
he
work,
quoted.
yeah, to accept the proposal
He
to do
quoted
the work
everything
of the
at
4
15,
thing.
yeah.
So we can just have a clarifying second motion that it will be up to 15 as needed.
To do some or all
Right.
of that work. that
But
was
we are
listed.
engaging them to be the engineers for the project, up to 15,000.
And some of the work that we listed,
Right.
it would be some or all of it,
Right.
so it doesn't have to
Okay.
be all of it.
Any more discussion?
So who's making that motion?
I'll make that motion.
So you're making the motion to clarifying that Lennar to do up to $15,000 worth is needed.
Right.
To do some or all of the work.
No,
I think anybody that voted for it can.
and I'll second the amending of, the clarifying,
This is a
clarifying,
clarifying motion,
Right.
yes, yeah.
clarifying.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's the engineering piece, and we're not gonna get it all designed tonight, but that's the engineering piece. Second piece was permits, so I'll start the process with Roger's help of applying to DEP and inland wetlands, asking them for expedited review of this. So I don't think we need a motion for that, because we've already said we're gonna do the project. And then we will report this to the Board of Finance, that we feel we can do the project for, at this point, for under $150,000. So we do not need to go to a town meeting or have any action by then, because we already have money appropriated and we're switching from Flat Rock to Valley Road. Okay? So that's the Board of Finance town meeting, so this will actually not go to a town meeting. And the board will work on having a special meeting with Town and Norrell as soon as we get something solid. So that's the next piece, is that we will work with the contractor to draw up a contract to do the work, start date, and responsibilities of doing the work.
I'm in training next week, Wednesday to Friday, so.
Okay.
I mean, I should be out by 5, but as long as our special meeting is quick, because I'll have homework from my training.
Right, I mean, I think you're seeing the project get refined and
Yeah.
the direction we're going. We're gonna use Leonard, we're gonna use Town and Norrell, we're gonna get permits, we're gonna get engineering. We're gonna get publicity and whatever else goes through the Board of Finance
Yeah.
for it.
Is there any reason, I mean, of course, tomorrow you're going to inform the Board of Finance about everything we're talking about,
Right.
about the money,
Yeah.
about their aspect of the money part. Is there any reason to keep on a simmer the possibility that we need to go to a town meeting for additional funding if something comes up that we haven't thought of? I mean, we're still pretty far away from it, but is it possible that some kind of figure comes up that we may need 5, 10, 20?
Until we get more information, I don't think there's anything we can guess at, let's put it that way. If, I will talk to the other company as far as the fabrication of the box culvert, but one of the things I need to talk to Dave Batista about is, number one, the span of the culvert. If it's a 10-foot, well, that's what we've already talked about. If it's 11 foot, if it has to go to 12 foot, that may change some of the requirements of the casting of the box culvert itself. So wherever we can get that done quickly and economically is where we'll go, but it's got to meet the engineer's specifications.
No, of course. I'm
Whether
just
we
wondering
use-
whether, if we think we're gonna be good, we're gonna be under where we need to be, and then when it gets close, we're over, do we wanna have in place, or do we have to, will we have to call an emergency
Well,
or a special
again,
meeting of the?
John, the Porter said the Board of Finance is not planning to meet in August. It's a good exercise that any of these boards can have a special
Special
meeting.
meeting, right.
And that's what they want to do. I think the other members say, let's get this project done. And if we find, we already think things are breaking in our direction with some serious
So when we inform them
contingency and
tomorrow, we'll just tell them if we run
That's
into
it.
problems, then we'll come back.
we'll come back. And, but we will not put it in the Chronicle as part of the town meeting at this point, because I don't think it's
It
going to
doesn't
be.
look like they were way below.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, I'm,
That's our best estimate at this time, that things are going in a good direction,
that's kinda nice.
right? Good,
Always good.
thanks for
Popping in.
popping in and making our day, all right?
Swinging by.
I was at the state capitol just a little while ago. They're
In
having the
Harrisburg.
State capitol of Pennsylvania. right?
How they doing?
Oh, they're doing fine, they're doing fine.
Good. So, yeah, so we may have, you know, an emergency meeting next, or a special meeting sometime next week, just to talk about this, nail down some numbers. And again, we'll have a written proposal from them now at that time, exactly what we're gonna do with them.
Great.
Okay, all
Thanks,
right,
everybody.
thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so
Appreciate all the work.
I think that's where we're at. We're gonna apply for our permits, go to the Board of Finance, talk to the engineer, talk to the contractor. Onward. Okay? And limit the town meeting to
Just the one item.
the septic. Okay? All right, so anything else on town meetings?
It's gonna be at the town hall, not at CCS.
Yeah, because a lot of times they're doing carpets, moving furniture,
Okay.
insulation in the summertime, so it's better just to do it here. We have,
Is this the Board of Finance meeting tomorrow?
this is a town meeting.
Town meeting in
For
August.
the
The
sewer.
Board of Finance meeting tomorrow is.
Tomorrow night is here also, 7:30.
Oh,
Going.
As long as they don't stop. Right, okay, well, thank you very much, Roger, I know you've been busy.
okay, I'm gonna
Doing that.
run along, I'll leave
Okay.
those copies with you. and I-
Great, all right, and
I'll
we'll,
be talking to you tomorrow anyways.
sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that's about it, other than public comments. Any public comments? Anybody still awake out there? Heard everything you needed to know. So Madeline doodling, I can understand that. All right, good. Okay, so that's the end of the public comment session. We're on paying bills, executive session.
Okay, that's it.
Right.